The PCCC, the Progressive Change Committee, has Adam Green, the co-founder, Progressive Change Campaign Committee, excuse me. He's talking about the People's Budget. This is the Progressive Caucus, the House Republican Progressive, or the Democratic Progressive Caucus. They put together a budget, and here are some of the things that it does. Now, what the PCCC did is they did polling on this budget. Now, you would think that something that more than half of Americans believe or support would be something worthy of coverage on CNN, MSNBC, ABC, NBC, CBS, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, the more than half of Americans are in favor of this, and it's being proposed by the largest or second largest caucus in the entire United States Congress. You would think that would be news. But you're not going to see this covered because it's the Progressive Caucus. It's not the Republicans. It's not. I mean, last year when the Republicans came up with their budget and it was a joke and it was dead on arrival, the press covered the Republican and Democrats came up. The Progressive Caucus came up with a budget and which of a chance of passing, but not because it wasn't supported by the American people, but because it wasn't supported by the oligarchs. And last year and the year before that and the 4 years before that, every time this happened, the press reported on the Republican budget saying that because the Republicans didn't control Congress and their budget had no chance of passing, that we, the press, need to tell you all about it so that you know what you missed out on. Now that the progressive budget has basically no chance of passing because the Republicans control the House and Senate, the corporate media in America is saying, we're not going to bother telling you about the Progressive Caucus budget this time either, only this time we're not going to do it because it has no chance of passing. Wait a minute, didn't you tell us that about the Republican budget last time? And the 5 years before that, every year, as an excuse to tell the Republican budget and tell us nothing about the progressive budget? Well, yeah, we did that, but that's just life. Okay. 71% of Americans, 56% of Republicans, 93% of Democrats, 61% of independents, 71% overall of Americans support this statement to provide federal assistance, financial assistance to states to make public colleges and universities more affordable so that all students have access to debt-free college education in the United States. 71% of Americans support that. The majority of Democrats, Republicans, and independents all support that. You will hear, and that's in the progressive budget, you will not hear one word about this in the national media. 71% of Americans support this statement. Invest $400 billion a year in major new jobs program that would create 4 million jobs by making long-term investments in building our transportation infrastructure, expanding internet access to rural areas, and increasing access to clean renewable energy. 71% of Americans support that. 91% of Democrats, 55% of Republicans, 61% of independents. This is a majority of Americans, even Republicans, support putting $400 billion a year into an infrastructure bill or a project that would create 4 million new jobs, eliminate unemployment. Is that going to be covered by the media? I mean, we know the Republicans are not going to vote for this because A, it's the best thing for America, and B, it would make them it would make the Democrats popular. It just ain't going to happen. Even though the billionaires could figure out a way to get a major chunk of that $400 billion. Okay, here's another one. 59% of Americans support this. 71% of Democrats, 53% of Republicans, of independents. Again, more than half, 59% of all Americans are in favor of, quote, raising the tax rate on personal income above $1 million a year, which is currently just below 40%, so that income above $1 million is taxed at 50%, the same rate it was taxed under President Reagan. 59% of Americans say, yes, do that. You are not even going to, not only is that not going to be a piece of legislation, you're not even going to hear the debate in the corrupt corporate media in the United States. You're not even going to hear the debate. On right-wing hate radio, you're going to hear not one word about the progressive budget because God forbid that the suckers in the Republican Party, the people who vote for Republicans but who are not rich, God forbid the suckers could figure out that there's an alternative to the Republican Party. That the progressive Democrats actually submitted a balanced budget that works. It just doesn't work for the Koch brothers. Here's another one. 77% of Americans support this. 94% of Democrats, 63% of Republicans, 69% of independents, 77% overall. More than half of Americans ensure that high-quality pre-kindergarten programs are available to every child in America. 77% of Americans support that. The Republicans will not allow it to happen, and the media will allow you to know that the second largest or the largest caucus, I'm not sure which is which. I think the Black Caucus is a little larger than the Progressive Caucus. I might be wrong. They go back and forth. But the Progressive Caucus in the House of Representatives, the largest caucus in Congress, proposes a budget, and it gets no coverage in the media. At that point, you have to say, what the hell is wrong with our media? And I can tell you, it's very simple. Our media has been corrupted just like our politics have been corrupted by the same thing, rich people. Which is not a Jeremiah against rich people. There's a lot of good rich people out there. But the problem is that our Supreme Court has changed the rules of the game repeatedly now over the last 40 years so that rich people have more political influence than they ever had before. So that two rich brothers, the second richest family in the United States behind the Waltons is the Koch family, two rich brothers can raise more money than the Democratic or Republican parties spent last year. They've got a nationwide setup already. They already have workers on the ground. You see Scott Walker coming into a state and all of a sudden he's a rock star. That doesn't happen just in a vacuum. And it's not because Scott Walker is such a brilliant guy. It's because the Koch brothers have a machine. And it's Americans for Prosperity. They've got chapters in every single state. They have enormous funding. They can deploy, dozens of 300 fancy buses for Tea Party events. I mean, they can do all kinds of stuff to just, run the political table, as it were. And there is no consequence to them for this. If anything, they get more out of it. I mean, they're making more money. The more that they can get, the more that the Koch brothers and the Adelsons of the world, the more that they can get Republicans indebted to them so that the Republicans do what they want, like saying, oh, there's no such thing as global climate change, when literally you've got villages in Alaska melting, having to be relocated because the permafrost that they've been on for 6,000 years just melted. But there's no climate change. Largest cyclone in the history of the world. There's no climate change. East and West Antarctica starting to melt into the seas because the seas underneath are so much warmer than anybody expected. And if they go fast, we could see, 10, 20 feet of sea level. Oh, there's no climate. Why? So let the Koch brothers keep making a profit. Let ExxonMobil and Rex Tillerson keep making their profit. We'll continue to pay for it, we the people. We'll continue to pay their externalities. We'll pay for the cause of the cancers that their stuff, everything from fracking to burning gasoline causes. We'll defend the Middle East and their oil pipelines. We'll make them rich. Right.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
At what point do Americans stand up and say, okay, we got it. These billionaires are running our political system. Enough.